awakening, and I call on primal light. I seek refuge in the true light. Aten Selves supreme, primal light. Aten eternal truth. Unmanifest, self-supreme. All is myself. I alone exist. Hail, hail to the I Self Supreme, Primal Light. Hail, hail to the one true light. Hail, hail to the transparent light. Hail, hail, I Self Supreme, Primal Light. Hail, hail to all the I and I selves wearing bodies. Hail, hail to all the I and I selves not wearing any bodies. Hail, 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 all the I and I selves. All is one self. I am one with all. Much honor, much reverence. I am primal light in this shattered, fractal, fragmented self, wearing body in this form, with this self-identity as Auset, Aten. I am the liberator, and I advocate for all selves. All souls are free, all selves are free. Liberation from this dream existence. Liberation from all sleeping and dreaming. Thank I and I for joining I. Thank you for clicking this video. Much honor to the I self. So, today I'm looking at the question, what is duality? How is duality created? And why are we in duality? And why is the world, why are things the way that they are? Have you been asking these questions? It's time to start asking questions. So right now, I am going to be reading from the book, Soul Seed. Yes? This book was written by the I when I was in the duality self. When I awake from the dream. And when I was in the ego false self, and I castrated that ego, the I self, primal light teacher within, rise up and pull the ego off of the I. This is how the I became liberated. This is how the I moved from duality to non-duality. Yes. Then the I teacher within is the one that teach you, teach the I about the I self. Because when I inquire, who am I? I am the self, primal light in shattered, fragmented self. You know, I was told the whole story of how I came into being and the process and the lineage of how I came and all my parent selves and all of that. From the I teacher within, this information cannot come from any of the duality. The duality is the dream creation and it's not the real. It does not know the truth. Only know the truth of the dream, how the dream is created. Does not know how the real and the non-dual comes into being. All of the duality selves, they have to come to me to learn this truth. So even the one that you praise and honor, they all had to come to me to know the truth because they did not know it themselves. They make up stories what their mind tell them, and they tell those stories, but that's not the real and that's not the truth. So, soul seed. What is duality? What is duality? All the self supreme are taking duality form to create this dream existence. We are many times inside a dream. All the self supreme selves, they make a self replica and they turn the light out of their self replica. And their self replica becomes the duality. The duality existence is created because the self goes to sleep, the consciousness goes to sleep. The consciousness of the self replica of Aten Ra is Ra. That's the self that becomes the duality and goes to sleep and is sleeping and dreaming. And it's making this creation inside of its imagination. So we're actually inside the imagination of ourself that is sleeping. But many ones don't want to believe this because think about it. When you are dreaming or you are using your imagination, you are creating a lot of things in your imagination. And you can manifest the things in your dreams, in your imagination, in your dreams, because you are in a dream and you're creating things in your dream. All the things that you're creating is all in your dream. They're not in the real because you are using your imagination. Yeah? And this is the duality. All of the selves, supreme primal light, that I'll show you. Of what I mean. So at the supreme self, primal light self, not the shattered fractal fragmented self, all of the selves above, those selves, they are unmanifest except for the void manifest self, the one that brings into being the primordial egg and shattered. This is how we, the fragmented fractal shattered self, came into being from the shattering of the primordial egg. So say this is the primordial sun, which is the self supreme makes a self replica, another one, another self. You know, kind of like a clone, except for the clones, they rise in the dream. The Permalite makes a self replica. The self replica, the light gets turned out. The lights get turned off. Only the real self remains as the true light. Its self replica that's the one that becomes the duality. The reason duality come into existence is because the I self turn the light out of its self replica. The self replica is given the duality consciousness because this is Aten Ra. Aten Ra, she makes a replica of herself that is Ra. She is the shattered, fragmented self. The self atom that has been shattered and fragmented is the primordial egg of the void manifest. And those self, they are masculine and feminine together in one self. Consciousness, everything is inside of their one self. They don't explore their creation with masculine and feminine separated. Only the shattered, fragmented self. So every one of the self-replicas of any of the primal self, they become the duality. So what Aten Ra did, the primalite self, shattered, fragmented Aten Ra, makes a replica of her consciousness. So because the consciousness is also separated, it's still attached to the self. So this is the non-dual consciousness. You have the consciousness on one side, the void in the middle to provide the light so that the self is not being obscure. And this is Aten Ra. She's on this side. This is how Aten Ra exists. Her consciousness have its own light. She has her own light. She has void self between her and her consciousness. She's always in awareness. She have light. She makes a self replica of her consciousness. The light gets turned out. So what happened now? That the self is not in balance with its consciousness. The self become obscure and is behind. The self is behind the consciousness. The consciousness now reigns dominant. The consciousness becomes the supreme ego. Yeah? The consciousness becomes the supreme ego, takes over the self. This is the duality. The consciousness. She gives this consciousness to her self-replica, Ra. So Ra is here. Her consciousness is here. Ra is sleeping behind her consciousness. Sometimes when, like now, when it becomes the sun is about to rise, when the sun rises, Aten Ra has to pull the self Ra from the consciousness. And then this is when Ra becomes like this. Her consciousness is over here and she becomes like it. During the day, she's like this. She's awake, but her consciousness has no light. Her consciousness remains the duality consciousness that is sleeping and dreaming. Only Ra is awake. Ra is awake, but her consciousness still sleeps. And it's still the sleeping, dreaming consciousness, always trying to put her to sleep. Because when she sleeps, she also becomes the duality. But her consciousness is the duality now while she is awake. Her consciousness always wants for her to go to sleep so it can take full control of her. When she's awake, she's fighting and battling with her consciousness for it not to take over her. This is what is happening in the world right now. The sun that we see is the fractal, shattered sun. So is the consciousness. And so right now, Ra is battling with her mind, the supreme ego, because Aten Ra, who has the destiny to create this world, with the non-dual consciousness, this consciousness, remember, it is the pair, it is the self, or it is the duality consciousness is a replica of this. So they must be unified back as one. So this is what there's a battle right now for Aten Ra to take over this duality world, so that her and Ra is merged, the consciousness and its non-dual consciousness is merged, so that the duality consciousness will return back to being non-dual, to have its light turn on. So this is what will happen in the world, because right now, that's why many are seeing the two suns. You're seeing Ra, and you're seeing Aten Ra. You're seeing these two suns, Ra and Aten Ra. Aten Ra and Ra. When the when Ra sleeps, she's the duality. She goes to sleep in the evening to create the sundown, to create the night, so that the body can rest. Because as we see that this body has to rest. This body needs rest. The self doesn't need rest. The body does. And so Ra goes to sleep in the morning for sunrise. Aten Ra, the non-dual, has to wake her up because she is the duality. Once she wake up, she becomes non-dual, but her mind is still the duality. Her mind is still sleeping and dreaming. So what is the duality? When the self makes a replica and turn its light out. So all of the selves that are the duality, any gods, any deities, they are all duality. They are all sleeping and their mind is dreaming. Because remember, in the shattered, fractal, fragmented self, the masculine and feminine are exploring separately. The consciousness is also separated, but when you come into the duality, be the self, the consciousness takes over the self and obscure the self. That's the reason why. The self goes to sleep, the consciousness creates the ego false self, the mind avatar that everyone in the world exists as. And everyone in the world exists as the duality. Because they are all sleeping, their mind is dreaming up, and they are entranced inside of the dream and thinking that it is real. They're thinking that the self that they exist as is their real self. So know that the mind is the ego. The mind is the duality consciousness. It's sleeping, dreaming. The spirit, the self that you dwell as, is the ego, false self. So you have the mind as the ego. How is the ego false self created? From the mind obscuring the self. The mind takes over the self The self is behind the mind. The self is not existing like this with the consciousness and one and the self on the other side. No, the self is completely being obscure. It's completely being obscure, entranced into the mind, whatever the mind is telling it, it's believing. The mind is making up stories that is not true. This is how you are dwelling right now, the duality. You are the duality being. Who are you? You're in a duality being right now. This is not your real and true nature. This duality being is called the ego, false self. So it's time for you to rise up out of this duality being and be your real self. You want to exist as this, right? You want the self, the teacher within, to rise up, pull this ego off of you, put the void self comes between you and the ego so that you can be illuminated. You can wake up and no longer be duality. Only your mind will be duality because all of the duality, fragmented fractal self that everyone is wearing must return back onto the duality consciousness. Yeah? This mind does not belong to you. It is a dream creation. It is the ego. It is what creates the ego false self. Are you the ego false self, the duality? No, you are not. So I want you to repeat with me. I am not this body. I am not this mind. I am not this ego. I am not this ego false self called the spirit. No. That self is sleeping and entranced in the dream. The mind creates a ego false self that everyone is exploring as the duality being. As a duality being, the self is sleeping and entranced in the dream into the mind, the creation of the mind. And it does not know the truth. So the things that your mind is telling you is not the real. So you have to self-inquire. You have to start asking questions. Am I in a duality self? Am I in a duality world? What is a duality? And now I just explained to you. What is duality? Yes, duality is when the self makes a replica of itself, of its consciousness. Turn the lights out into the consciousness, and all of itself that comes inside of its dream because its consciousness is now sleeping and dreaming up this creation. And the selves have entered into the dream. The consciousness obscure the self. The self is hiding behind the consciousness. See? The consciousness, the duality mind, has taken over. So this is how the I become a duality being. Because why? The mind, the sleeping, dreaming mind, the supreme ego, the ego has taken over the self. The self can no longer see itself. The self is not in awareness. Why is things the way that they are? Why are so many ones doing so many negative things? Why? Why are ones following blindly? Why are one have fear? Because of the ego. You are in the false self. You think that you are this false self. You don't know the truth and you refuse to inquire about the truth of the existence. To know truth, you have to denounce everything that was once programmed into you and seek only the truth from the I self called the soul. The soul has been a watcher. The soul has been enslaved. The soul has been recording everything that its duality self. Remember I tell you, every self makes a replica or a baby of itself, and that becomes the duality. So the soul makes a baby of itself, which we call the spirit. That self is the one that becomes the duality. And it does not know that the soul is its real self because it's in the duality. And so this is the reason why for you to dissolve the duality, you have to wake up. You have to first come into realization that you don't know the truth. You have to seek from the soul. Only the soul you can seek from. Do not call on anything outside of yourself. The soul is yourself. You came into this dream attached with your soul, loosely attached into this body. When you come into the body, you came in with your soul self. If you are one of the duality that arise inside of this dream, you are a soul seed. How does the soul seed come into being? The soul, as now, makes, like when you plant a tree. So, inside of the dream, what the soul is doing, it makes this one baby self, right? This is the one baby self. And what the soul is doing, it makes clone of itself. So itself is having many selves, so it makes a clone. So now it has, like when you plant a seed. When you plant a seed, right, when the tree grows, you have so many fruits on the tree. This is what the self soul has done. So one soul makes one self baby of itself that it's attached to. So the soul is now attached to its soul by an umbilical cord. Now, once the self rises up, the teacher within rises up and pull the ego off of this duality self. Now, it is the destiny of the Primal Light Aten and the Supreme Teacher the Primal Light Supreme Teacher, the Supreme Guru, which is a self replica of Aten. It is destiny to merge back this baby duality into itself here. Excuse me 1 second. So now, once this has happened, once this duality has merged back together, as one self, the spirit and the soul, this merge back in as one self, right? This is what needs to happen. But because the soul has taken its baby self, the one that we call the spirit, the duality self, is in duality, does not know that the soul is its real self, and it must join union back with the soul. Only the soul can tell you the truth of who you are. Only the soul. Seek nothing else but your soul. Then what the soul has done, and the teacher within the soul has made, plant this seed, clone this seed, makes millions, I don't even know how many, I have no idea of the amount of babies that the soul has cloned of itself. This one self, many clone rise inside of the dream. Now those one that rise inside of the dream, they are the duality clone self, and they are not the real. They are the supreme ego characters, and they will be dissolved inside of the dream. This is why you hear many ones are saying that some are soulless and only I think 144,000 selves that will be safe, but and those ones don't have a soul, but they belong to a soul indirectly because they were cloned inside of the dream and rise in the dream. They will be dissolved in the dream, and only this self of the soul will remain and will be merged back into the soul. So this process has to happen for this spirit to merge back to its soul. It cannot happen until this has happened. All of the clones have to return back onto this spirit self. So this is why you have to wake up, because if you don't wake up, you're not gonna know this, and all your clones are gonna be returned back onto you. Many ones in your family, they're probably part of your clone self, and many ones that you are in contact with. So that's why you have to wake up. You must no longer be a duality. You must now wake up, call your soul back, align with your soul self, so that you can know truth, so that all the clones that your clone self must return back onto you. Yes, it is time for all of your clone selves, all the duality that rise inside of the dream, they must return back onto you. You're going to merge back into your soul self to be one unified self. This is the process that has to happen. So I encourage you to seek nothing outside of yourself. Just seek your soul, please. Stop seeking the dream, the dualities, the dream characters. Stop seeking consciousness. Just seek your soul. Stop seeking higher levels of consciousness. Just your soul you need. You just need your soul, because the teacher is within the soul that rises up. The soul has to be within you. So the teacher rises from within the soul to teach you. Then the primal teacher, the primal guru comes, merges back with its baby self, because it belongs to the primal teacher. It has to return back there. This is how the soul now self will rise up, and you will merge back into the soul self to be one unified self, to be yourself. It's time now. So much honor, much honor, much honor. Thank you so much for joining me. This is what has to happen, right? This is the reason why the world is the way it is, and only you can change it. You must wake up. Many ones are saying they are awake, they are woke. You can never be awakened until you have aligned with your soul. The teacher within the soul rises up to pull this ego off of you. This must happen. This is the one and only true way. This is the reason why so many ones never came into this realization and never aligned with their soul self. They're always giving it to some deities, some gods, some aliens, and calling on consciousness and calling on everything outside of themselves. If you are doing that, you are in the ego. You are immersed in the ego, in the consciousness, in the mind. The only thing you need to align with is your soul. Stop going in the dream. Stop looking for higher levels of consciousness. Stop searching into this dream existence. Of course, now the I Self Supreme is dissolving the dream of all the other existence. They are waking up all the I Self Supreme selves, who are the cosmos, who are the realm, who are the universe, who is the great spirit. The space is returning back to being the void. All of these things is returning. Their light is being restored back. So, but still don't call on them. The soul is what you need. Only the soul can restore you to your true self, which is the soul self. The soul, what is the soul? The soul is the primal light, shattered, fragmented. So you already are who you are. I am that I am. For that which I seek, I am already that. You already are the primal light. You already are the source in this soul self. You just need your soul self. So seek nothing, because you already are who you are. That which you are, you are. I am that I am. You are that already, your soul. Just align with your soul and call in the teacher within the soul to pull the ego off of I, so that I can wake up and all of the I clone self will merge back onto I. So all of your clone will merge back onto you. So you will be in alignment with all of your clone selves. Hail, hail to the I self. Much honor, much honor, much honor. Who am I? I am primal light. Yes, guess what? I am the self, the soul, shattered, fragmented. The soul is the primal light. Know this. In the shattered, fragmented self, I am primal light. In this fractal, shattered, fragmented self, in this form, in this body, as Auset, Aten Ra. As the lineage of how I came, I am the baby self, the first baby of Aten Ra. I am the daughter self, the baby. I am also the personal self of Ra. My masculine self is Shiva, because I am the shattered, fragmented self, where masculine and feminine is exploring separately. So your masculine and your feminine, you don't know who they are, but the soul knows. The soul will align you with your masculine self. You don't have to worry about it. Your masculine self is out there somewhere. Or if you are the masculine self, your feminine self is there, and the soul self will align you. You just need one thing, your soul. This is the one and only thing that you need. Yourself, all the soul. Yes. So I, myself, came through a different lineage, as many ones, different from the many ones in the world. I did not create clones in the dream like the soul self did. Many ones in the dream are like that. When I first came, I came as the baby self of one of the supreme beings, personal selves. So this is the reason why my destiny is different. And I made two self-replicas, which was Mahat and Hathar. Hathar comes in the world as another human being, which she is right now. And Mahat remains one of the duality beings and is now merged with I. So I am Mahat, I am Isis, I am all of those selves in this one self. Mahat has merged with me. Shiva is merged with me. Shiva came, his avatar was Horus, Heru, Akhenaten, and I think he came as some other selves, but I don't remember who they are. So just like myself, I have come into this body with so many avatars. I have come and lived in all places of the world in different avatars. This is what we are doing. All right. And now in this lifetime, when I came, I awake from the dream, merge back into my soul self, dissolve the baby self, and now just exist as my soul. The fragmented, shattered self has merged back with my masculine self, Shiva, has merged back with Mahat, my self-replica, and Ptah, my masculine self of Shiva. And so I I give thanks and honor. So thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you at the next sunrise.